Hey, Robert, Jake, glad to have you along today. Every time I watch the Sully audio and video, and I hear him say, "We're going into the Hudson," it never ceases to amaze me because it was a masterful job of real world, no BS assessments going on and an execution of a very difficult plan. It occurs to me that the principles of the management of an in-flight emergency are not terribly different than that of the businessman handling the current COVID-19 crisis. A lot of decision making to be had, and it needs to be made relatively quickly, but pensively and carefully. So we're going to draw from the experience of the two of you as one a pilot. That is Jake. You're a commercial pilot and you're trained as an instructor. You've a lot of simulation time. Robert, you're a private pilot and you're also a small business owner. You own an anesthesia billing and management company. So this is real world for everybody. We're all kind of going through this. And what we'd like to do, of course, is to be able to offer some services through my company, Accord, healthcare and business consulting, to help the pilots, if you will, the managers, the practice managers, and businessmen and women out there assess their situation, get their plane down safely if possible. So Jake, let's start with you. As a commercial pilot, instructor, you've got a lot of sim time. Tell us what the value of simulation is in terms of the way that a pilot uses it.
Thanks, Grant. Yes, it's absolutely vital. It is crucial in the whole training process because in the simulator world, we can go through numerous scenarios, including engine failures, rapid decompression, numerous scenarios where a pilot can, go through the scenario and either be successful or not successful. And if they're not, we can sort of reset it and learn from it and move forward.
Right. So nobody dies, right?
Right. Exactly. Nobody dies, and it's and you can go run through so many scenarios, and it's a great learning tool, phenomenal learning tool. It keeps people safe, and you can apply that to the real world.
Right. So one of the scariest in-flight emergencies you could have has to be engine failure, particularly if it's multiple engine failure like Sully experienced coming out of LaGuardia. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. Engine failures, fires, these are all extremely dangerous things that we run through in a simulator numerous times, procedurally, what to do.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a phrase in the aviation community, roughly quoted, any landing that everybody can walk away from is a good landing. I know you don't want to tear planes up, but the gist of that is that you or others, as in Sully's case, may have to make a landing that's not picture perfect. It wasn't where you wanted to land, but if everybody gets up and walks out of it, it works out pretty darn well.
Right.
So Robert, 2 weeks ago, you and I had again, what I would call a real world conversation where we were talking about the general situation of the anesthesia community with the loss of elective cases. This has a ripple effect. Many private practices, even family type primary care physicians are having difficulties. It's tough out there in the business world. You and I talked about some very important principles. Do you want to kind of hash those out again?
I would tell you that, my experience as a general aviation pilot has helped me be a better business person. And from the sense of running my business on a day-to-day basis, we put together a plan just similar to a flight plan. We map it out, and then we have to make, if you will, in-flight changes as necessary. When COVID-19 came along, most of my colleagues in the billing and consulting world took a quick look at their cash flow and said, we're 45 to 60 days away from a really catastrophic, stop to our cash flow. The parallel with flying is fuel management. If you go and look at the cause of most general aviation accidents from years back to today, the most common is fuel exhaustion.
Mhm.
It's no different in the business world. When something like this happens, the first thing you have to do is figure out how much fuel you have left. Business world, that's cash. How much cash do you have in the bank? How much access to cash? How much, do you have access to a short-term loan or loan capabilities? So the parallels to aviation are unbelievably similar. And those are the scenarios that we immediately started working through.
Right.
There are several in the new stimulus bill that have done fabulous things to help small business.
Right. And I think one of the things that we immediately recognized is that there wasn't really a silver bullet, and there were likely a number of different ways to, I think the word of the day, mitigate. And what became important to me in that conversation was the fact that with so many variables, if we do this, that has a different outcome. If we check this box, then the outcome's here. If we go to the hospital for a stipend, this happens. And what happens is it kind of throws away all of the old business models, including old accounts receivable aging buckets. They are no more because we're not the only ones hurting. The insurance companies are going to pay slower because they have less people. They have people working from home. And what you and I talked about, and I went ahead and ran with, was I got with an MBA who is an analyst, and he's not on the call tonight. I'll have a separate call with him, talk about the development. But essentially what we did was we put together what I'm calling a business flight simulator. And in it, we're going to have plug and play metrics to where we'll take a client's many expenses, and it would include staffing. We'll take incomes, alternate sources of income that are coming along that maybe don't pay as well. But we're going to be plugging those in and basically changing their business plan on a moment-to-moment basis. And the importance is go back to what Jake was talking about. We'll be doing this in the safety of what I'm calling a sandbox. We'll be able to project and analyze based on variables that we're plugging in or taking out. Is 20%, now it's 40, and get a different outcome. And we think that we can project a better glide slope for our clients. Robert, does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. I mean, the sense of urgency is the thing that, again, parallels aviation. Jake mentioned earlier buying time. The more time you can buy to ensure a safe landing is critical. But with this COVID-19 pandemic impact, there is a very limited time, and businesses are scrambling to find avenues or ways to extend their glide,
Right.
add to the tank, and it's critical. I mean, I've spoken to a number of business owners that are everywhere in the gamut, from ready and moving forward with some solutions to no idea which way to turn. And so I think a solution that you come up with could be phenomenal for those who are midline to back to not knowing where to start, because there is a limited amount of time for those organizations to really take action, extend their glide, and figure out a way to again get this business taken care of for the immediate term.
Right, and I agree. And one of the things too that I've thought about and why I've put this together is that along with myself and colleagues that I can pull in to help, essentially we pretty much have an A team in terms of years of experience. I've got 25 years of medical practice experience in managing anesthesia practices. You have something probably very similar. But we're bringing experience to maybe to the small to mid-sized practices who don't necessarily have an MBA, CPA type on hand, or a person with 25 years of medical practice experience. And so we're making ourselves available to them. And we really believe that we can, if not create a perfect landing, because it's going to be hard to create a perfect landing in today's market, but a safe landing. And if nothing else, be able to help people realistically know when they're going to run out of altitude and when they're going to have to set that plane down. But it won't be for the lack of trying that people with us haven't tried the multiple possible solutions and run them through the COVID-19 business simulator to see what it looks like. And again, if we don't get where we want, it won't be for the want of trying. Jake, you got anything at the end here before we roll this up, and any last words for our friends?
No, I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I think what you're doing is it's a necessity, because just like simulators are a necessity in flight training for airliners or what have you, I think what you're doing is great work, and it's vital.
Well, I appreciate that, those kind words. I appreciate both of you jumping in on this conference call, and these are difficult times, and I look forward to hearing from folk if I can be of service and value to you. Hang tough, everybody. Stay safe. Look for updated videos.